It starts with you and me. Then we create a community, bringing you a new point of view. Him and her spaces.
But
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Him and Her Talk Space, where we have two coaches, one space, zero reservations. Hope everybody's having a wonderful night tonight. Y'all that are waiting in the room, come on in. Y'all that are already here, welcome. Thanks for being a part of it. Of course, we got an interesting one for y'all tonight. We said we were going to break up the relationship things, and we are. Tonight we're touching on something that we see a lot of. We see a lot of this happening right now, and the debate is out on whether or not it's useful or not useful and stuff like that. So we're going to bring that debate and that discussion here home with y'all tonight, and that is on the subject of cancel culture. What are we really doing? What is it? What is it not? Are we really using it right? And especially because we do focus this on the Black community, we are going to be talking about how we've been using it in the Black community and how we can better use it going forward. So that is tonight. But first, we have our wonderful co-host, Nene Wyndham, with
that was so dramatic. So what we're going to start, what I'm going to start doing starting this week, it's new because I think that there's a lot of things that are going on in the world, in our community, and I just want to make sure that we're all aware of the good things and the bad things and the neutral things that are going on. So what we're going to start doing is incorporating current events. And at the beginning of our show, since people usually don't come on, like start hopping on until about a half an hour, half past 8, to give them time to come in, and then we're still talking and we're not just sitting here waiting for people to hop in. So current events that happened from our last show until this show, so from last week Wednesday to this week Wednesday, this first one is about a 29-year-old Black man who adopted 5 siblings because he did not want them to be separated, which I think is an awesome story considering how our court systems are with children and just Black families being broken up in general. And the reason for him doing is because when he was 5, I believe, when he was younger, he was put into the foster system, and he was separated from his siblings, and he didn't want them to go through the same thing. So I think that's awesome that he took that, being so young, and then taking on 5 kids. Like, I don't know, like 5 kids, that's a lot, but taking on 5 kids without any, question about it, because he just didn't want them to be separated, which I think is awesome. The second one that we came across this week, was our sister friend, Miss Tiffany Haddish. She was arrested this week for driving under the influence. She was high, y'all. She was smoking some weed, fell asleep at the steering wheel, and the cop came and arrested her. She ultimately bailed herself out a few hours later, $1,600 bail. But yeah, she was arrested for driving under the influence of marijuana.
No, she didn't hit anybody or anything.
She did not. I think from my quick glance at the article, she was probably at a stop sign or a stoplight or something and fell asleep at the wheel, or either pulled over, fell asleep at the wheel, and then when they got to her, they noticed that she was slurring and that she was high. And even in her mugshot, her eyes are like bloodshot red. So, and she bailed herself out. I'm tying into it. This is just me. But I know she just recently separated, or not even separated, broke up with Common.
Yep.
So I'm thinking she's taking that really hard. Just even in her interviews that she has, how she talks about the relationship and how the relationship ended. She was waiting on stops. Okay. And she posted that quick. Good Lord. And she...
please read that again. waiting for the stop sign to turn
She was
green.
waiting for the stop sign to turn green.
you and Eric, you
But she had taken that breakup pretty hard. And just in her interviews that she's done with people, you can tell that she's kind of taking that hard. So I'm wondering if this is probably just a domino effect that's happening with her. Hopefully not. But hopefully not. But that was another thing. And then if you have not heard, so Pastor Michael Todd, who is a pastor out of Texas, right, Chad?
No. He's in Kansas.
Out of Kansas.
He's in Kansas.
He's
Transformation Church, pastor of Transformation Church out in Kansas.
Out of Kansas. And young guy, he's mid-30s or whatever. So I don't know if many of you know, there's a story in the Bible of, and correct.
I
don't know the full story or whatever of the Bible, but there was a story in the Bible where Jesus had knelt down or had spat in the dirt, right? Yes. Made the dirt mud, and he applied the dirt in the mud to the eyes of a blind man.
Yes.
And then once the blind man got the mud or whatever, he was able to see again. Once Jesus asked, "Do you believe that you could be healed?" He was able to heal again. Now, I love Mike Todd because he uses props.
Good guy.
To teach, and I'm drawn to that. I'm a visual learner as well, so I'm drawn to that. What he took upon himself to do, though, is to spit in his hand. Hot pooey spit, not a splash or a spray or like
what I'm doing right now with the
right. He pulled it from back here, his throat,
down here,
spit in his head, and wiped it on the guy. You saw the video, Chad. So I don't know where because I didn't.
I didn't finish. All my life. She's talking about it. I started watching the video and just knowing what was coming, I was like, real talk, I can't even finish watching this because now I did read the article, and I do understand that this wasn't just like a random person. This is actually his brother.
Okay.
This was actually
makes a difference, but
it's very, very small. But the fact that you was like, see what Jesus did was.
Right. So he pulled it back, and then wiped it on his brother's face. And he got huge, you can imagine, he got huge backlash for that. He did apologize the next day, saying it was stupid, it was nasty, it was disgusting. He was not trying to make miracles. He wasn't not trying to act as Jesus try to, heal anybody. He was just trying to have visual props to show. His thing is bringing the Bible to life so that people can better understand it. My thoughts, it'll blow over in a week, but that was disgusting. Considering COVID, considering germs, considering bodily fluids, considering all of that.
The Omarion is still dancing around on people.
Right. Yeah, hopefully he didn't give this brother isn't dancing with Omarion on his forehead or wherever.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yes. And then lastly, and this was just as of today, and I want to get his name right because I don't want to mispronounce his name, but our Andre Leon Talley, who is the former longtime creative director for Vogue and fashion icon in his own right, has died. He passed away at 73, according to a statement on Instagram. So we're losing our people. We're losing a lot of people this year. We're still in January of 2020, and I think we've lost about 5 or 6 people already. And we're literally mid-January. So we're losing a lot of people. Chad and I was actually talking about this earlier, and he's like, why, it seems like it's happening often. I just think that in our group, our generation or whatever, we had a lot of wonderful people. We don't have a lot of wonderful people now that we can really look up to, but we had a lot of wonderful people that we were able to look up to. And they're reaching those ages where, they're passing away, unfortunately. So we lost another one, guys. So that was just my current events, and that was a quick current event. That was only 8:19, but that's the quick current event segment of this show. So, and let me know if you guys like that, or if it was like, girl, stop talking, like move on with the show. And I won't do it again next week. But let me know if you want to know what's going on, if you want to be in the know, and then we can continue to do it. If not, then I can take it out. It's just a try and see type thing. So.
I'm being completely unbiased. I thought it was good.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's cool.
Thank you, Eric.
One. We got two votes.
Right.
Great. But yeah, just so thank you again for the current events on that.
Yep.
It's I think it's good to keep track of what's happening on the week to week. Maybe not daily, but on the week to week and stuff. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
So launching going from that into our main topic, which is of course cancel culture. What is it? What is it not? How are we really using it? Y'all know we always come up with some good leading questions for our forum tonight. So for y'all being here, I'm just throw the first one out there and say, how would you define cancel culture? How would you define it? We are paying attention to the chat. The mics are open, so you guys come on in with whatever it is that you want to share on it. How would you define cancel culture? I'm about to start calling names.
Anyway, I'll go. I think now, what it is now is trying to sound like Webster, is the action of something happening. So something of someone that we know who's in the limelight, who's well known, who does something, like for example, a Michael Todd, right? Who does something that the majority don't agree with or whatever, and then we stop following him, we stop listening to his sermons, we stop talking about him or whatever in that way, because we choose, because they did something bad, we're choosing to no longer support them.
I think that's the grand scope of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the grand scope of it. Anybody else on that? Thank you for that. Anybody else want to add or take away from that?
Yeah, I think that cancel culture, I don't think it's necessarily saying something bad. It's just having a different opinion of the majority. Mm-hmm. So if you're not going along with what people want you to go along with, then you're considered a bad person, but it doesn't mean that you're bad or you've said something bad. It's just you're not going along with what everyone else is going along with.
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you for adding that. I think my take on it kind of aligns with somewhere between what you and what both of you said, Nini and Eric, where it can be something that is viewed as either being real, and here's the thing with that cancel culture. Exactly. Yeah. So he's doing something that's looked at as being problematic from a certain perspective, and this is where I say, like, it either falls into a real or perceived measure of being problematic. So it could be factually looked at by the general population as being, okay, this is bad, this is bad, you shouldn't be doing that. Wonderful case being the thing with R. Kelly, right? R. Kelly, we knew 25 years ago R. Kelly like messing with younger girls. 25 years later, he's still doing it, to the point where you got parents concerned and this, that, and third, and now the law is being brought into it. So now people are looking at it like, okay, no, what you're doing is wrong. If you are keeping these women against their will, whatever. If that is the absolute truth, and you're keeping women against their will, and you're, mistreating them and this, that, and the third, then that is factually looked at as being wrong. In which case, no, we understand that the society understands that they have this new way of protest, which is, we're just going to call for no support for you. We're not going to your concerts anymore. We're not buying any more of your albums. We're not streaming it. Radio stations don't play his music no more. Venues won't accept him at concerts. And now the law got into it, and it's like, okay, yeah, charges are being pressed, and we're about to prosecute. So it's one of those things. A perceived one would be Kaepernick not standing for the national anthem. Now that's where it's like, okay, you have some people like, oh, it's disrespectful, but then you're not paying attention to the context of why he's doing it. That is a form of protest. It's a form of peaceful protest. That's not breaking any laws. you know, but people are looking at, you have a certain section of people that are looking at it as being unfavorable, and they raised enough stink about it to have it to cost him his job, you know, to the point where I don't even think he's still playing now. And that was what, 4 or 5 years ago. So, you know, it's a very real thing, and it speaks a lot to what's happening as a social, what's becoming a social norm, where you have these business entities and these corporations and so on and so forth that are bending to the will of societal pressure. And in some cases, it's really good, where it brings attention to certain things, like the thing with R. Kelly, or if you believe that Bill Cosby really did, you know, the allegations of him doping women up and so on and so forth. Those are good sections of it. But then you have other areas where people are just exerting their opinion on it, and it's like, what are we gonna do now? So it's a lot. Anybody else want to chime in with their definition of cancel culture? That's almost everybody. Yeah, Chanel, you're the only one who hasn't said anything. But yeah, yeah. Anything?
No, I agree with you guys' definition of cancel culture.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, appreciate that. Anybody want to give any other examples of how we're using it effectively?
Effectively?
I think when it's like businesses and stuff that make poor decisions, and you have, you know, a majority that say, oh, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they begin to change some of their business practices because of fear of being truly canceled.
I think that's an excellent example. Like, you know, saying, you know, we're going to take away support if it's like unfair hiring practices or something like that, and it's truly determined as being unfair hiring practices or something, or, you know, an oil company keeps letting oil spill out of one of their, you know, underwater pipelines, and they're not doing anything to, you know, to fix it and stuff like that. That's a very real and true environmental issue. And we can pull support from them until they focus their efforts on fixing that and improve their drilling practices or things of that nature. So that's a very real example, Chanel. Thank you for that.
Well, even when the one that popped out in my head was when Starbucks. Remember that manager who, it was those two black guys sitting in the cafe part, just waiting for their business partner to show up at the cafe, and she had the cops called on them. And what Starbucks did, and this is the thing that gets me with us, is that I think I'm a true believer in that if someone shows that they're trying to do the right thing, then we can cut them some slack in that thing. Sometimes we hold on to that and don't want to do it. So for example, with Starbucks, and Starbucks said, oh snap, this is a problem, right? This is a problem that we're seeing. And what we're going to do, we're going to shut down all of our stores nationwide, or however wide they did it, for 4 hours. And we're going to teach them diversity, equity, and inclusion training, right? Everyone is coming in there, you're getting the training, and then you're going to go to work after that. And I think that to be done so quickly and as a quick decision and what to do was something awesome. But there's still people that are out there like, well, whatever, they shouldn't have done it, and since they did it, and whatever, this is what it's going to be. But my thing is, if they're trying to do it, if they're trying to make a change, granted that it happened, granted that situation, it is an unfortunate situation that happened, but if you're trying to right the wrong, then how can I still hold that against you? And I think we're using it the wrong way. In that sense, we still hold that against people. For example, I personally think, and people don't agree with me. I see your hand, Eric. Give me 1 second. I personally think that Bill Cosby did it, right? He admitted that he
Right.
did it at least once. If you did it once, you did it twice, right? You're just not going to do it once and like, ooh, that was fun, I'm never going to do it again. You did it, right? My thing is like the women came forth. He did his time. He did the 3 years. Granted, it happened back in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that. But at his and I'm probably gonna catch flack for this. He's
But
old. Let the man. He did his 3 years. Let the man go. He won't do it again. He learned his lesson. But and then forgive him and keep it moving. But people are still like holding on to that. Like, yo, like he shouldn't be in out of jail and I get that people had different experiences with it. Women may have had the experience themselves and they feel some type of way, but and then you have the other ones that are like, well, no, he didn't do it, and Bill, they just trying to because was he one that brought NBC or something, and they trying to get him because of this or whatever, but no, he did it because he admitted that he did it. So like, let's not play the game. But I just think that if we use it appropriately, it will be more effective than what it is. Because like they canceled this child, Chrisette Michelle, for singing at the inauguration. And I'm like, well, Michelle, you should never done it. She did it. She, did her reasons for doing it. But this woman still had not made a record since then. Like, it's crazy to me. It's like, how effective is that? She's saying at the inauguration, trying to join people together, trying to say, okay, let's close this gap. Even though we told her not to do it. Now we told you not to do it, girl. But she did it. But okay, it's done. It's over with. But yet Kanye is still walking around smiling and cheesing with a MAGA hat on his head. Like, let's get it together. What are we doing? Like, what are we really doing? But I don't want to go on too far. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the explanation that you gave as far as like us kind of letting go of some things, I think it's because it's been happening for so long. It's hard for a lot of people to let things go because we kind of look at things like if you're in a professional setting, then you should act as such. You shouldn't have to continuously pull your employees for training, for ethics, when they should have known this when they came through the door because they took that training before they even took this position. And a lot of people, even with me, like sometimes I just kind of like just get away from this and I don't read a lot of different things that I see on social media or see in the news because it aggravates me because it's like continuously the same thing. If it's not, that is, Dave Chappelle. I've even been treated that way just at school, just sitting in class and it's like, hey, come here. Somebody said somebody came in here ain't supposed to be here, and it's like, like, are you serious? Or even if I've gone to the skating rink and it's like, hey, if you got these little skates or these little wheels, if you got this and you wear your clothes like that, you can't come in here. All of these people get tired of those things because a lot of times people have gone through those things, so it's hard for them to just forget.
And I get that, yeah. I get that. But let me ask you this, Eric. Let me ask you this. And I see your hand now. Let me ask you this. So trust me, I get like, okay, if it's a constant thing and it's constantly happening and, when are they going to learn the lesson? So if then, like, let's say this happened and then this company, for example, Starbucks is like, okay, if they went through their training. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make it world known. We're going to make it known, like, okay, this is now known. The public knows that you've gone through this training. So if anything else happens out, and they essentially fired that manager that did that. But if I'm making it known, okay, this is being done, my thought is that bringing light to it. So if this shouldn't happen again in the future, and if it does, then these are the consequences of those actions being taken. Is that not enough to say, okay, well, I'll go buy a macchiato tomorrow? No,
because no matter what happens, it can happen tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. Nothing will really change because they pretty much got us in a between a rock and a hard place. Because where are we going to go? Because you got hundreds of thousands of people that love Starbucks. They don't care what happens. They'll look at it that way, and they're going to go there tomorrow and buy their cup of cappuccino or whatever. And same instances go along. So with the police department, police force, it's the same thing. They do the same thing over and over again. We have to have these ethics trainings. You had ethics trainings when you was in the academy. Most of you had college degrees. You had ethics courses in college, and you should just know it because you're supposedly a professional. You should know these things already because you have taken more than enough ethics classes. It seems like you only had to take one class for that gun, but you know how to use it. You had to take one class for them chokeholds, but you know how to use that real good. But the ethics doesn't stick. I don't buy it.
And I think with Chanel, I'm sorry, I know your hand is, we took talk too long, but I think with the cops, so I feel differently. Honestly, I feel differently towards the cops because I think that a lot of the cops that are in uniform just changed their uniform. So they changed it from the white hoods with the holes to now badges and guns. So I think that it's more of, for them, it's not an ethics training, but now they have a gun to use and show their white supremacy towards us. And I think it's a difference I think it's different in the police force than like maybe a Starbucks or a Target. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if anything happened with Target that did something at a hole and then did the training based on that action, as opposed to them saying, okay, well, cops, this is just their training and the way they were trained and whatever. I think there's a difference because you have a lot of cops and judges who on Thursday night in the back hills of the road are in white hoods burning crosses. So I think there's a difference there.
But you have to look at it from this standpoint as well. The community consists of not just police force and the fire department, but those businesses. So they all go hand in hand. So they're a part of the community. They are a part of the people. They are a part of that group. The people that most oftentimes own those businesses are their friends, family members, or people that they know. So police are not just the only ones that are there with those white sheets on. You have people from the fire department, you have teachers, you have business owners.
You're talking about bringing another type of culture into the larger mainstream culture, which is part of the problem that we're encountering.
Yep.
I think that's essentially what I hear both you and Nene saying is like, there is this larger culture that's professional and that's supposed to be happening, but then you're encountering people's personal culture or people's smaller community culture that's happening, and there's a disconnect. Why? Because that smaller level mindset or that personal culture, or the culture that you were raised with, as far as your family culture or your worldview culture that you learn from people who are acting, might have been acting in a discriminatory way, that you then bring into the larger culture of dealing with the population in general, and there's the mystery. So it's like, hey, are you not paying attention? We're saying that's not going to work here in this large culture. If that's how you feel at home, that's how you feel at home, but you can't bring that here. Or if that's how you feel like you want to treat women, or that's how you feel like you want to treat black people or gays or trans people or whatever, that you want to feel that way at home or think that way at home, that's cool. But out here, once you're out here, once you put yourself into the public space, that's not going to fly. And I think that's where when we use it effectively, it's like saying, I think that's what we're saying when I say that we're using it effectively. It's like, that's just not going. That smaller thought or that smaller mindset it's not going to work in the larger frame of you being a public figure, you being a public entity, you being a business, you being a celebrity, so on and so forth. And I think that's where a lot of cancellation comes from.
So say that again. So I'm sorry, I heard everything you said, but you're saying that like I said everything you said, but can you repeat it? So you're saying that as a corporation, if you're thinking, or as a police officer or whoever, if you're thinking that, black people are inferior and they're beneath you, you need to keep that at home. Or if there's a issue that you see you need to keep that at home when it comes to discriminating against or being prejudiced against another group.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Because nobody, you can't make anybody switch their beliefs. All right, this is some that you've taken psychology courses with with me. You can't make anybody switch up their beliefs and stuff like that. But what you can do is have people with an understanding of that's not going to. You can't manifest that if you're a public entity, if you're a public figure, if you're a public servant, a celebrity, or a corporate entity that is servicing the public. You cannot do that. That's not something that you can bring into the mainstream culture. That's not something that you can bring into the public culture with you and something like that. Even for you to state it, like for you to state it, that's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something because we are of a society where people are raising their voices up right now. People are understanding that the power, something about the power of the masses, right? And it can be something that's absolutely viewed as being factually off, or it can just be an opinion that's largely agreed upon. That's why I say real or perceived. And I think that's essentially what's happening. I think there's a little bit of a problem, which is what we're going to be going into next, which is where we overuse it or we abuse this newfound phenomenon that is cancel culture. So that's actually our next question, which is, what are some areas where we might be overusing it or even abusing it?
Okay, I have a question before we go there.
Yeah.
A devil's advocate question, because I like my devil's advocate question.
You are the queen. You are the queen of it.
So using that same concept, that's his same thing, that whole your thoughts at home and you shouldn't put it out there, and if you do, then leave it at home if that's the way you think, and trying to bring it into mainstream is not okay, and using that same exact definition that you gave, shouldn't that then apply to Copernic as well?
It could. It absolutely.
Which side are we falling on?
It absolutely could. But here's the thing. Kaepernick isn't breaking any laws by kneeling. He's not breaking any. Here's where the context behind it falls into play, because Kaepernick's not breaking any laws by doing that. Mm-hmm. It's something that's being viewed as simply being unfavorable, but it's not illegal. People feeling that other human beings are beneath them and that they treat them as such, that is on the books as being discriminatory by law.
Okay, so that your concept is, and then Chanel, did you still want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I feel like it's like a couple of different things. So
let's go.
When we talk about like the police and things like that, that's not cancel culture. That's not. I think cancel culture is more applicable towards a person, a public figure who has done something to go against popular opinion, and then being ostracized in media, whether it's TV, social, whatever. So we use Kaepernick was blackballed. He wasn't canceled.
Facts.
And yeah, he was blackballed. But say for instance, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was pretty much. Can you think about who is doing the canceling too?
Good question. Good statement. Good statement. That's an excellent statement. Who's raising the fuss about it?
Who's doing the canceling? That's why I said it's a difference. Because when you think about Kaepernick, that's why I say he was blackballed. He wasn't canceled. Because he still has the support of the majority of the people.
Got it. Yep.
When we think about the police and stuff, we can't cancel them because you still utilize them for different things.
But we defunded them.
That was it. I was just about to
Partially.
say
Right.
we that didn't stop people from trying to.
Yeah, partially. And even when we think about like corporations and stuff like that do blackface and things like that, we still don't cancel them because you still have people who patronize them. But when you think about a person, okay, I give you a good example. Say for instance, I don't know if you remember her. She was on like Ally McBeal. I'm trying to think of somebody who just said something like really outrageous.
Roseanne. What's her name? Roseanne.
Oh,
I can name a few.
Excellent point.
Roseanne. What's her name? The country cook.
I got a good example.
Paula Dean.
Yes.
Paula Dean, yeah.
Yeah.
The guy from look, I got a few. The guy from
Seinfeld.
Friends. With the scruffy hair. What's his name?
Seinfeld.
Yes.
Michael Richards. Yeah. Michael Richards.
Kramer.
Yeah.
You need some more?
Now, I was
What about
thinking
what about what Dave Chappelle recently said?
I got something on that, and I'm glad that you said that. I saw that you.
Well,
put that in,
there
in
was
post.
an attempt to do the cancel culture on Dave
Or
Chappelle,
Chappelle,
but it wasn't successful.
Right.
Because he still had a majority of people who was in his corner. But I think when it's really successful is when you really have people who can really see that they actually are ostracized, and it could be where they are experiencing like financial loss and things like that.
Chrisette Michelle.
Yeah,
I think she was canceled.
That's an excellent point.
I think she's a good example of being canceled because for her to be canceled from the group of people that she identifies with, I think that plays a big part in it too. Them like Bill Cosby identifying with us as people of African descent. Turning our backs on him and saying, we're not supporting you anymore. We're not going to buy any of your creations or whatever. We're just done with you. I think that is, a good example.
The Cosby Show out of syndication. And what's worse is that it doesn't just harm that person, like especially in the context of Bill Cosby. For them to pull the Cosby Show out of syndication as part of this cancel, agenda that they had for him. That's not just pulling money out of Bill's pocket. That's pulling money out of Felicia Rashad's pocket, out of Tempest Bledsoe's pocket, Lisa Bonet's pocket, Malcolm Jamal Warner's pocket, Keisha Knight Poland's pocket. Like that whole cast was getting money off of it being in syndication, and it was one of the highest syndicated shows. So that wasn't no small amount of money for them to be losing. So for them to pull that, like, it wasn't just him. And people, I don't think a lot of people were just like, yeah, get Bill, but weren't understanding who else that was going to affect. Like these other actors had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, similarly when Roseanne made her comment, they took Roseanne out of the show, but the other people were still like in the show. And granted, it's a difference because the show was it came back on, so they kept the show on. But my thing is, like you're saying, like, why cancel the whole entire show?
Which is why it's just the Connors now. They killed her character off, and now it's just the Connors show is still going.
Right, and they're still getting paid.
So yeah, it's a big to do. It's not just the issue of going after, these individuals and saying, oh, they're the worst thing since Hitler and this, that, and third, or whatever other crazy stuff they say about these people. But it's the other instances that go into play about it. For them to try and cancel Dave Chappelle, and then some places were canceling his engagement, like his shows, because he was doing, Dave still does stand up in other places. It's not just his televised specials. He does stand up everywhere. So for other places that were canceling his bookings and stuff like that, that's taking money away from his road manager. That's taking money away from from his lighting, his tech people, his makeup people, all that stuff. So you're not even just taking money out of his pocket, you're taking money out of these other people's pocket. And I think that nobody's thinking about the secondary effects when they talk about going after somebody. And I think that's one of the worst things about cancel culture.
Yeah, and then they don't even think about like what is the end goal. It's just so reactive.
Who the hell knows?
It's like no end goal, and then you're not consistent. So you could cancel this person, and somebody else can do the same thing, and nothing happens to that person for whatever reason. And you know, it's like, you know, this is why we don't get anywhere with certain things, because we tend to be harder on ourselves. And I haven't seen any real example of cancel culture existing for other ethnic groups or races.
Not really.
It's just really, you know, Black folks, where it's something that's a thing now. So my thing is like, you can sit there and cancel somebody that you, and it's a whole group thing. I can't stand group think. I feel like it's very detrimental to the greater good for the most part, because you don't allow people who have a different opinion to voice their opinion. Now, is some of the things that's said, as you know, that people I guess warrant for this whole cancel culture thing, is it unfavorable? Yes. But at the same time, I mean, is it worthy of them being totally canceled? So the things that Dave Chappelle was saying about the LGBTQ community, it was his personal opinion. And the thing was, what was the harmful effect that it had on that community? What was really damaging? Was there any real damage done from the things that he said about
that's
them?
the question. That is the question. And I got a video queued up for that. Somebody actually spoke that I liked. Peace out to Pink Sun Goddess off of TikTok for this. Make sure I got my sound on, because sharing be funny sometimes. All right. So this is what she said on the video.
But you all don't actually want to hear them speak, because Dave Chappelle actually stands for the average Black man in his late 40s. And this little cancellation thing ain't changing nobody's mind. It's just making people silent about their bigotry. And now he can't even grow from the place that he's been, because he's been growing. If you watch his other specials, he's been growing, but you have taken away the only person who was willing to educate him in a way he could understand. If you all are going to be like this, I demand that you stop saying that you want Black representation, that you want trans representation, because you don't want Black or trans representation. You want radical liberal representation, and you want radical liberal representation to seem like the most diverse type of political ideology, and that is it. Dave Chappelle's comedy special wasn't transphobic. You all just like any...
All right, there you go. But and that plays into a few other things that happened. For those of you who might not still be aware of it, Dave Chappelle did his comedy special at the Closure back in October, and he spoke a lot on. He literally went on to say, this is going to be the last discussion that I have about what I think about, you know, the trans community and so on and so forth, until we are on the same page about it. For me personally, having seen it, the man ain't really saying anything crazy about the trans community. He spoke off of his personal experience with it. He was able to inject some humor into it. And one of the most powerful points about it was that he learned a lot about what was happening in the trans community from a trans comedian who went on to say, who went on to speak to the trans community, like, leave Dave Chappelle alone. He's learning and this, that, and the third. He ain't even really saying nothing crazy about y'all. And the trans community lashed the fuck out at this person to the point where she unfortunately ended her own life due to the pressure and due to just the way that they were just going after her. And it's so funny that nobody said anything with him sharing that story. Nobody said anything about trying to cancel the trans community for going after this person who was supposed to be part of their tribe now, because they were legit, trans member. I believe she's a trans woman, so I believe she was a man and then became a woman, and so on and so forth and whatnot. And nobody said anything about the trans community going after this person. Everybody was just like, "Oh, Dave said this. His community is inciting violence against the trans community." And if you listen to what this man was saying during it, wasn't nothing violent about it, in my opinion. And I've watched it a few times. Wasn't nothing violent about it. He spoke on what happened, and that was really it. And he went on to say, like, he went on to say, really, like, these people that I know, based off of my experience, have been some of the best people in my life. Not only just as good people, but people who were willing to educate me further on what this is and what that is, and so on and so forth. But he was just able to say it in a way that made it funny, because he exaggerates stories. And what is a comedian other than somebody who exaggerates their stories for the amusement, for the amusement or for the shock factor? So it wasn't nothing hatred, laced in it. But for them to be talking about it, a lot of people just like, "Yo, how dare he? He's not even trans. Why? How dare he talk about it?" Listen, people are allowed to talk about whatever comes across their beautiful little mind. They don't have to be an expert in it. It doesn't have to be their personal experience on it. It can simply be based off of observation. Now, whether or not you agree with that observation, that's on you. But for you to try and raise up a crusade every time you do it, that's a problem. That's problematic. That is problematic to me. And you should be canceled for that, because now you starting to walk on people's ability to think for themselves. You're walking on people's ability to exercise free speech and this, that, and the third. Free speech doesn't have to be something that you agree with. It's just free. Whether you agree with it or not is something. Now, whether you disagree with it and it's unlawful, that's another story. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother story. But for it to just be somebody, I don't like smoke. I don't like people who smoke cigarettes. I don't like smokers, or I don't like what smoking does to it. Now, a smoker could take that person and be like, "Oh, he's against all smokers. Just burn Chad. Don't go to him and her podcast anymore. Bump Nene. Forget it." You know what I'm saying? Bump Nene for being his friend. Like they tried to do Felicia Rashad on Bill when they let this man out. And Felicia Rashad was like, "Yo, thank God my friend's been released. Something like a horrible injustice has been corrected." And the women down there at Howard was like, "Felicia, I thought she was on our team." And they tried to get her fired from being the new dean of the arts down there for saying she was happy her friend got out of prison. We're doing a lot with it, yo. we doing a lot with it. Last question.
That's crazy, because those same people, when Pookie shoot up the streets, they be the same ones champion for Pookie not to go to jail, knowing good and well Pookie done laid out 5,000 people or whatever. They be the same ones that would sit there, and even though they know their family member done did wrong, will be sitting there rooting for that person not to have any consequences for the things that they've done. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Don't come for Felicia Rashad. I don't like that.
I was with you on that. Like, don't come for mom. Because everybody above a certain age know this woman helped raise him.
And this is my thing, and this is my issue with this cancel culture thing. It's like, if we were using it effectively across the board to do what we're supposed to do with it, then that's fine. But you cancel or attempt to cancel, well, you cancel Bill Cosby, you cancel, R. Kelly, who clearly has a illness, it's mental illness or whatever. But yet, Kanye is still sitting up here smiling with his MAGA hat on, and everybody's buying those ugly
ugly sneakers.
Yes. It's like,
Never.
Like we're not using it effectively. And then
because
what is the difference in what
doing it? Most of the people that's doing the cancel culture, they're not informed. They're just jumping on like a bandwagon or something. Nobody ever probably took the time to read up any of the details that go into whatever. Because for me, I knew things was going on with R. Kelly years ago in one of the articles I read in Vibe magazine, and he talked about how he just used to sit in the closet for real. And I was like, yeah, something happened to him. And then lo and behold, he had a lot of trauma in his life.
Right.
Does it make what he did right? No. But nobody wants to address the trauma that he experienced and the trauma.
You're just a bad, evil man. Just bad.
Right. But there's plenty of people who are still experiencing those type of traumas today. And to think that you could probably do something or try to understand so that you can help another generation of people not end up like that. Mm-hmm. But no, you just cancel them out and then just keep moving on. Now, and also not even holding some people accountable, because some people actually put themselves in certain predicaments to be victimized. Some people did that.
But we're not going to talk about the accountability behind that, right?
No, they don't want to talk about the accountability. Just want to cancel. Just look at it with a narrow lens and just go cancel.
Who just did that? Perfect example. Jussie Smollett, the actor from Empire.
Yeah, he's canceled.
This Negro.
Yes, he was canceled big time.
This Negro staged a crime to be looked at as a victim. Police did the investigation, was like, yo, you hired these people to jump you.
But even his story was stupid. Like you a lie good. Like it was a stupid. And even when he was telling the story, we were like, that don't make sense. Like what you said, it ain't making sense, bro. So I think we canceled him when he first came out with the daggone story because that it wasn't believable. But the fact that you did that, it was stupid. And now you trying to do what with it though? Like what was your purpose of doing that? Because now you look stupid and you're a liar.
Well, no, that he might need a little psychological. My opinion is he needs a little bit of psychological.
I ain't gonna say that.
Psychological TLC on that, because for you to go to such lengths as to, and this is not even just him, because people less famous than him, the Joe anybody can do these things where they'll stage them to hell. Like when I was, you know how many stories I made up on myself to draw sympathy on people just for the sake of attention in this and the third. Now, granted, I learned my lesson pretty quick, but yeah, I did it.
But you didn't make it a public thing where you're included. People coming up to you with MAGA hats, so they just beat you up with a MAGA hat, and the MAGA hat stayed. They just came and put the MAGA hat on and came and beat you up. Like it didn't make sense. And then you're out at 2:00 in the morning going to Subway. Sandwich, and they're like, "There's Jesse." Like what? Like, come on, dude, stop it. Like it was just stupid. He should have been canceled. Good. That was an effective cancel.
Bad. That was a very effective because you tried to play us, so you get canceled. Yes, you get canceled. You tried to play us bad, and it backfired.
Horrible. Just like with poor India Arie and her illumination something with her album, and she had like a gold light shining her face, and everybody assumed that she needed light in her skin, and she got canceled for that, and which made absolutely no sense. And she's like, it's called Illumination or Illuminated, whatever her album was called. I don't know it off the top of my head, but because they assumed that she did something, they canceled that. They canceled her, which is silly. It's like we're not using it the right way. If it was used the right way, then I can back it, but it's not being used the right way. It really isn't.
We're gonna prove it right now. Everybody that thinks that this is my actual skin tone, that is my actual skin tone. Okay? It's called lighting. It makes your skin look lighter. That's what India did. She put some light on. No, my skin has never been
glitter or something, like shimmer or something too. So
whatever. So yeah. But people took that, people go and run with stuff. And this is where I think I look at this cancel culture thing as like, I think a major part of it, aside from when it is actually used correctly, I think a major part of it is just people wanting to feel like they are a part of something. Mm-hmm. I think you got a lot of people that are out here looking for some sense of validation. Y'all will go and build a hill to go die on for something. Mm-hmm. Instead of finding an actual hill that's worth dying on for the sake of for the sake of improving a situation, not just improving your situation, but for the sake of overall improving a situation, company ain't hiring people right, or they got bad business practices, yes, go after them with cancel culture so that they can straighten their shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's doing something that can actually be viewed as illegal or unlawful, or this, that, and third, yes, go after that. Don't go after somebody. Don't go after what's my man's name? Kevin Spacey, guy from House of Cards and The Usual Suspects. Kevin Spacey, very, very talented actor. Somebody went after him for something that he did back in 1975, like he touched the guy or something like that. Back in 1975, you want to bring it up in 20 whatever year that was, 2016 or something like that. So you waited on damn near 40 years to say something. And now I'd be surprised if the man can even get a walk-on role. So,
but they did the same thing with Kevin Hart. Remember, they took him off of the award show.
Off the Oscars for a tweet from how long ago?
A long time ago.
Yeah,
very long.
Yeah. And this is part of the problem. I can see if these people were still, and this is something that I've gone on record as saying. You go out, if you want to use cancel culture against somebody that you saw did something some time ago and you see that they're still operating in it now, okay, cool. That would actually kind of make sense. You want to go after somebody who did something way back when, and you've seen that they've grown from it, and you still don't want to go after them, you petty as fuck for that. I'm gonna just say it. Mm-hmm. And for you to gather people to your cause, they are equally petty as fuck. You can tell them I said that. So that's that on that, or like these crazy people say, that's that on Mary Had a Little Lamb, which I think is stupid as hell. I think that person who came up with that should get canceled because that shit is corny as fuck to me. But that's just my personal.
What's the deal with Mary Had a Little Lamb?
Who knows? But that's that on it.
No, I mean, like, what are you talking about?
You haven't heard that before.
No.
People will try to end the argument and be like, yeah, that's what I said, and that's that on Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I'm just like, why are we bringing nursery rhymes into this? What does Mary or her lamb have to do with what you just said at all? Like, and they really be sounding like they ate with it.
That's a thing?
It's a thing.
I've never heard anyone say that before.
Yeah, no, it was. It kind of died down, but it was like,
because it's stupid.
I'm surrounded by white people, so I don't know.
That's fine.
I don't know.
It's fine. You ain't even gotta go. You ain't even gotta go too far. You can go on social media, and you'll probably still find somebody trying to eat with that as a finisher, as a finishing line. And it's just, and thank you for letting me know that it died down, because it's stupid as hell.
Yeah, it died down a while ago.
It's stupid as hell. But yeah, that is really it. And speaking of that being really it, that seems like that's pretty much it for tonight's show. Thanks for everybody who put something in the chat. Thanks for everybody who came on the mic and shared something with you. Hope you guys are able to take something with this. Next time you see cancel culture, take the time to really look at it, look at its component parts, and see if it's something that's even really like worth getting into, or worth supporting. Because for me, 8 times out of 10, it's not worth it. But for the 2 times where it is worth it, yeah, I'll get behind. I'll definitely get behind. Next week we have complete trust after betrayal. Is it possible? All right, and that's like any level of betrayal: friend, business partner, significant other, you name it. That's what we're going to be going in on. Is it something that you can actually get past? Can you actually come back to trust somebody after a betrayal? All right, it should be a really cerebral and emotional topic for us. So invite people out. You guys have the link. Share the link out. It's always the same link every single time. If you have any show ideas, of course, you can always hit us up here on Facebook. You can hit us up on IG at him and her spaces, on TikTok at him and her spaces, and via email at himandherspaces@gmail.com. So until then, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. And we will see you next week here on Him and Her Talk Space, where as always, we have 2 coaches.
1 space. and zero reservations.
zero reservations. We'll see you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.